I'm a person that takes things out of the containers and puts them in clear containers. So like my pantry is perfectly beautiful and my seat, like everyone that comes to my house is like, Kaylee, what is wrong with you? And I even label things even though it's clear because I'm like, it just looks pretty. But my brain just works that way. I have to have structure and it has to be organized. And I felt like the Parts Girl brand, or naming the Parts Girl podcast, wasn't true to what the brand was because it was just more than parts.
I am super excited to hear about what you've gone through recently, about the transition and about the journey. So could you give me an overview of perhaps where you started and where you're at now?
I started the Parts Girl podcast because we were going through, maybe it's been 5 years because I don't know, it was around COVID time. You know, everyone was kind of using LinkedIn a little differently. It wasn't just a resume. At least that's when it started for me. I was using it differently. And I just noticed this gap, and I'm like, we need to have something out there for parts and talk about parts. So I just kind of coined the brand or the term Parts Girl because that's all I ever known. But, you know, it's evolved over the years because the conversations weren't just all about parts. And my brain is such a structured, organized, like I'm a person that takes things out of the containers and puts them in clear containers. So like my pantry is perfectly beautiful and my seat, like everyone that comes to my house is like, Kaylee, what is wrong with you? And I even label things even though it's clear because I'm like, it just looks pretty. But my brain just works that way. I have to have structure and it has to be organized. And I felt like the Parts Girl brand, or naming the Parts Girl podcast, wasn't true to what the brand was because it was just more than parts. My conversations were trailblazers in the industry. I of course was talking about parts. And then there was brand. We're talking about marketing, branding, just everything and all things. So I just felt like the Parts Girl podcast wasn't fitting. So then I decided to branch out into 2 different podcasts, Trailblaze Your Path and the Parts Management podcast. Well, that became really messy with just pushing out content. If anyone's listening and understands just content and the way the algorithms work, you know, it's way more impactful to post things on your personal page than it is on a business page, but you still need to be doing both. So I just found that wasn't working for me. Maybe it works for other people, but it wasn't working for me. So I went back to one podcast and just simplified it to the PartsEdge podcast, because that's the reason why I'm doing the podcast. It's for PartsEdge.
It's that you have these transparent boxes with labels. And the reason it surprises me is I know a little bit about you and about your family. And it's like, you don't only do the podcast. There is so much more going on in your life. And so for the life of me, I can't imagine how you find the time to label your pantry. I'm a little bit jealous, but in absolutely the best way. I guess I'm kind of foreshadowing what you're probably going to say, which is you're very organized. So can you maybe talk a little bit about what you do day to day? Because part of why we're having these conversations, especially when they relate back to content creation, is to really show people that it's not just the extroverts, it's not just the marketers. Even though I know you are sales and marketing manager for PartsEdge, there is so much room out there for people who are busy, who are moms of 2 perhaps, to show up and to create content, because it's about resonating with the audience. So take me a little bit on a journey through your day so that our audience understands that it's not as straightforward as perhaps they think it is.
Yeah, no, it's really not. And I think it goes back to just organizing things into groups. So I use Monday.com, and that really was a game changer for me because I kind of had a little bit of everything everywhere. And I took a step back and was like, what's our true marketing strategy? Because the content for a podcast, or the content you're creating with a podcast as a company, that's your content. That's what you're creating. And you can use that and create multiple types of content, video, written, short. So it's just, I took a step back and put everything on one board and then grouped what I'm trying to accomplish. So that kind of goes back to like my brain and how I like, okay, I just need to group things. And then I need to group, what tasks have to happen for each thing. And then it's very repetitive once you figure that out. And then you can then start to delegate, because that's the biggest thing is like, I can't do all of it. I knew that from the early on. I didn't try to do all of it. I knew that I did actually try to edit and look at things. So credit to you for doing that, because I absolutely hate it. And I don't have the patience for it. So I quickly delegated that very early on. But yeah, just, creating those groups, creating those repetitive tasks and how you want things done, and then figuring out how you can delegate those so that it's way more streamlined and you can achieve. Because like you had mentioned, I'm not just a podcast host. I'm also a sales and marketing manager, director. So I'm executing on content. I'm having sales meeting proposals to bring in new business. So there's a lot going on in my day when it comes to that. But yeah, tasks, repetitive, even if it's like, you have to do that thing every day, I still write it down, or I still have it repeat so I can see it. Like, these are the things I need to do. And then of course, like you probably do this, you just would, with having kids, your day is broken up. So you kind of have to schedule things and low priority things later on when they're sleeping, and the high priority things during the day when you have to do those things. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also super interested to know, like, how would you explain your own transition? How have you changed? Because like you said, 5 years ago, and yes, you're absolutely right. I think LinkedIn went through an absolute change, because it became a platform that maybe early adopters of this new age thinking around personal branding really stepped into the light and really grasped the opportunity with both hands. And so you saw people like Melanie Borden. She always comes to mind because she's so good at it. And in my mind, or at least on my feed, she was first. So it was really amazing to see how she went about creating content, putting herself out there, and how far she's come, and the amazing empire that she's built. So shout out to Melanie Borden, always.
Absolutely, because she was one of the top 5 people I think that I started following early on, and just kind of asked her questions, and she was so willing to help. And she's amazing. So I'm glad you brought her up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so if you think to who Kaylee was back then when you were exploring this idea versus who you are now, how have you developed and changed as a person, and how have you also developed and grown professionally?
Oh, that's a good question. Because, when I started this, I was a new mom with just one child. And I was pretty early on into my sales and marketing role with PartsEdge. I've worked with them for a long time, but that role kind of happened in 2016, 2017. So I've evolved so much as I'm more than sales and marketing. I think right now is I'm on this path of, taking PartsEdge to the next level, and really, I don't know if I can really, I guess I can share it. Like, my goal is to be the CEO of PartsEdge. I mean, my bosses know that. They want this for me, but getting there is, well, we don't have to go through all that. But I think that's how I've evolved, is I've seen this growth. I've put a lot of things in place, and I see the future of what more I can do too. So I guess that's how I've evolved, is I'm more than the parts girl, and I'm more than sales and marketing for PartsEdge. I think I've become the brand and the voice of it all.
I think that's amazing. I feel like we just got an exclusive scoop. So thank you for sharing. And I think it makes total sense, because I think as well, when a business is willing to allow somebody who is as invested as you are in the business to really step forward into the spotlight and to convey the message in the way that you do, because at the end of the day, content marketing is multifaceted and it is creative. And so, a lot of people may think that, the only way to get your message out there as a brand is through advertising or is through paid sponsored posts. But there's really so much more that you can do, and you can really own the message and really direct how you're going to communicate to your audience if you're in that position and the business that you're working for allows you to do that. So I know that you have an exceptional relationship with both of the founders. Can you share a little bit about how that conversation went in the beginning? Because I think that there are people out there that would love to investigate and see whether this is something that they could do as well. So please share that story if you can, because I'd love to put this out.
Yeah, I really do remember it because again, it was going back to, it was like a weird time and couldn't do sales the way that it was because COVID, and it was just a weird time. It's like I felt weird pushing this or pushing what we were doing. So I just started posting about my day or what I was going through or conversations I had, whether they were frustrating, whether they were wins. Of course, the more frustrating ones did win because I would talk about like, man, I've been following up with this person for a year. I just want to like bang my head against the wall, like what am I doing wrong? So, and then also too, in creating that content, you do learn from writing because it's just like journaling and things, because you're expressing what you're going through and you can reread it and like you get more clarity from it. So, but going back to your question, I remember my bosses, they were the founders, they were very like, I don't know, it feels weird that you're sharing pictures of your dog or talking about your kid, but it seems to be working, like, so keep trying. So it was not, I want to say it was an awkward conversation. It was like, hey, I have this feeling, I want to try this, and hopefully you guys can support this. And they've always been very trusting in me, which has been very nice. So I don't know if that's helpful to anyone, but I would just say if you have a feeling or a desire to really express that and try it, and if you don't enjoy it and you don't like it, then it's probably not the right thing. So
absolutely, I agree with you. And I think as well, I have a lot of conversations with people about who is the right person to actually tell the brand story. And often it's not the CEO. Often it's not the head of marketing.
I don't think it has to be one person, because I would say by me having the parts management, the parts series, I'm calling it now, and including one of the founders who is our resident parts expert into those conversations, even Cliff's the, more technical programming side, including those founders in, they're a brand in itself, and that content is resonating very well. So, it's me kind of owning the whole process, but like, it's not just me. And that's the biggest thing of what I guess I'm trying to say is, as bigger companies too, because we're a smaller company of, 15-ish. So, but in bigger companies, when you have like a sales director, you have a marketing director, and you have all these people involved, I think it's okay for everyone to represent your brand, because they're going to create their following, the people that resonate the most with them. And that's how it grows.